Hi everyone, it's QuickyBaby and welcome back to World of Tanks, and today I've got a full tank review for you on the Tier 8 Polish heavy tank. It is the 53 TP Markowskiego. Now if you've been following my tank reviews up the Polish tech tree, you'll know that the Tier 7 vehicle, didn't really catch me. But spoilers, the 53 TP kind of really did. So stick around as I compare the 53 TP to some of its competition at Tier 8 and also its predecessor at Tier 7 and follow it up with some ace tanker gameplay. So immediately, 53 TP, what is special about it, especially compared to the 45 TP? Well, it's kind of a gun. It's got a 122mm main armament that has a rather unique alpha damage, 420. That's right in the middle of the IS-3 and the 50 TP prototype, or the Defender. And this gives the vehicle quite a nice balance between alpha damage and rate of fire. And one thing immediately you'll notice is that the damage per minute of this vehicle is rather nice, just shy of 2,000. It kicks the butt of the IS-3. And we can clearly see that because its rate of fire is nearly a quarter of a round a minute better than the IS-3, even though its alpha damage is 420 rather than 390. This is a resounding upgrade over the previous vehicle, the 45 TP, and it really even gives this tank some strong competition compared to the premium variant of the Tier 8 Polish heavy tank, the 50 TP prototype. So is there anything bad about the firepower of this vehicle? Well, the penetration, it's not exactly amazing. 218 is significantly less than that of other vehicles, and the premium pen is 245. Oh, a lot of heavy tanks are starting to pack more like 260 on their premium rounds, and so that's kind of a downer. However, what's quite surprising about this gun as well is the highly explosive rounds are rather underwhelming. 61mm of pen with 550 alpha, and if we look at the IS-3, for example, 68mm of pen with 530 alpha. One thing that is nice about this vehicle, however, is the amount of ammunition it could carry. 34 rounds of 122mm ammunition with higher alpha damage than that of the IS-3 does give it a real big advantage, so you can take a variety of standard and premium rounds and even pack a few high explosive rounds for if the situation dictates their use. Alright, so now on to gun handling. Is it good news for the 53 TP? Well, kind of yes and no. The aim time of 2.7 seconds is great compared to the IS-3 and the 50 TP prototype. The accuracy as well of 0.38 is the best of any of these caliber guns. And furthermore, it's the dispersion values of this vehicle that just make this 2.7 seconds feel way better than the 2.3 that you had on the 45 TP. 0.1 turret traverse dispersion, way better than the 45 TP, and 0.18 when moving just means that you feel way more accurate than the IS-3, apart from when you're completely stationary and just turning the turret. In addition to this, the vehicle has 8 degrees of gun depression. While that's not quite as good as the 50 TP over the side of the vehicle, it can still compete with it frontally, and this is more than enough to work most ridgelines in the game very competitively. Alright, so now on to mobility for the 53 TP, and again, great news, better top speed and reverse speed than the 45 TP and also the IS-3. Makes this quite a nimble heavy tank when you combine this with an okay power to weight ratio and the same ground resistance as the IS-3 has. You're going to be just a touch slower than you were with the 45 TP, at least up until its speed limit of 35 kilometers an hour, and past that, then you're going to be able to motor. Armor-wise, the 53 TP it's kind of hit and miss, if I'm honest. Just ignore this tank's GG model for the turret of the tank. Let's focus on the hull armor. And the hull armor, oh yeah, that's not exactly great all across the front of the vehicle. It's an easy pen for most Tier 8 and higher tanks. But it's really when you start to use the gun depression of this vehicle on a ridgeline that your frontal hull armor starts to become good. And even if you're not using a ridgeline, if you angle the vehicle like this, you can still contest most Tier 6 and Tier 7 tanks, but for the most part, I recommend you try and over-angle against higher tier vehicles and hope that they just make them a tricky target. Or should I say, make yourself a tricky target by wiggling left and right, and hopefully they're going to shoot your tracks and it will get absorbed. Turret armor-wise, while I can't show you on tanks GG, it's kind of good news for the turret of this tank. I feel like it's better than that of the 45 TP, but it does have a bit of a weak point on top that you're going to have to contend with. Alright. Hit points wise, 1,450, the worst in the comparison of these Tier 8 vehicles, but it does have 370 meters base view range, which is rather nice. It allows you to spot for yourself better than an IS-3 can, but worse than what a 50 TP prototype can. So all in all, this vehicle just feels like it's got a good mix match, and you might be wondering, well, why have you even included the VK4502A in this comparison? That's because it plays out fairly similar. It's got that DPM, it's got mediocre penetration, it's got good gun handling, well, fairly good gun handling, and it's got the same kind of mobility. And so if you play through the VK4502A and you made it work, then maybe you're going to do better with this tank with an upgraded turret and probably about the same kind of hull armor. But anyway, that's quite enough jibber jabber. Let's get stuck into some gameplay. Alright, so firstly we're in a nice matchup here. We're playing on the Fjords map and we're against a variety of tier 6 tanks. I'm going to follow this up with some gameplay against equal and higher tier tanks as well, so don't think that this is going to be the only replay inside this tank review. Alright, so what am I going to do with the 53 TP at the start of this battle? Well, I guess there's kind of three options. One is I try and push aggressively up the north. Two is that I try and go and fight around the heavy flank. And third is that I go and try and dominate this area. When I say this area, let me just show you. I think this is the most important location on the map, this corner, because this corner just dominates view range all the way down here. It also manages to get easy shots all the way up here. And you can just work the corner, proxy spots, stop people from working around here as well. It's just so important to dominate this location. And if I'd spawned on the other side, I would have very happily gone into here and I would have probably managed to massacre most of the enemy team from around here. But instead, I'm going to take the fight up towards the north. So let's get an idea of the mobility of this vehicle. Yeah, definitely not the fastest, but not the slowest. It's by no means a terribly slow heavy like a KV-4, but it's definitely not a very fast heavy like an AMX 5100, for example. Although the 5100 is probably a terrible comparison because I think that's probably more like a medium tank or at least a very lightly armored heavy tank with an impressive 100mm caliber gun. Nevertheless, get a feel for the gun handling of this vehicle, and there's the Alpha 49A. That is a big roll. A max roll for this tank is going to be, what? It's going to be like 525, so that's not too far away. That was a big old roll out of this 420 gun. But I have to admit, I actually really liked this level of alpha damage. It's enough to dissuade somebody from being able to harass you and trade one for one. But the rate of fire on the vehicle is so good that sometimes you can even catch those people with those 105mm and 120mm guns and manage to outtrade them effectively. Alright, so SU-12244 made himself spotted around that corner and I decide to punish him. But I'm going to tank some rounds in the back of the vehicle here. I bounce off the 43 TP from the front, but the Panther is pen 3 and to the rear of my vehicle. Now there's an Emil firing high explosive rounds, and I'm just going to take it to the enemy team. This is what I had to do in this position as a top tier heavy tank. It's to go and get stuck in. If we get held on this corner, then the enemies are going to win. I'm going to do some reverse side scraping here, but the SU-12244 is firing high explosive rounds at me, and so reverse side scraping isn't very useful in that scenario. Alright, so Emil unloaded pretty much the entirety of a high explosive magazine at me there. And now I'm going to try and take it to him because he's got a terrible reload on that vehicle, one of the worst DPMs at tier 8 heavy. I'm going to try and reverse behind the wrecks of my enemy to try and keep myself in the game. Although I have to shoot this guy's hull still. So I have to try and find a shot in his hull, hopefully pull back. I'm thinking about going forwards. I know I'm not going to be able to avoid his gun depression. So this is what 105mm high explosive rounds do to this tank. It's not insignificant. I'm not going to say that's insignificant. 128, 141 with the hits. I mean, we can see there that it looks like a 128mm, sorry, a 122mm or a 105mm is going to do about 150 damage to this vehicle, give or take a little bit. But we won the flank, right? We had the armor to be able to bounce just a shell from the 43, and we had the hit points to tank it up, and we had the mobility to advance up that slope quick enough, and when we got there, the damage per minute to be able to finish the tanks off. Now, I'm not going to say that was, should we say, the most finesse. There wasn't very much finesse in that push. But sometimes you don't need finesse. Sometimes you need raw, let's go in, and if I'm going to get through the situation, I'm going to get through the situation. That's how I like to play my VK4502A, especially in a platoon. When you get two of those tanks in a platoon and you just do what you saw here, quite often you can manage to just overwhelm your opponents. They don't expect you to have such good damage per minute. They don't expect you to have armor that will pull off some miracle bounces. And then you can just harass your way through the situation. It's what I used to do with Ike back in the day in my VK4502A. We called that thing the duck tank, even though obviously the AMX-40 is the true duck tank. We used to quack a lot when we were playing that thing. And the reason why I'm getting these memories of the VK4502A is because it's very similar to this vehicle. You know, you've got a front-mounted turret. You've got a hull that will work against some tanks, tier 6s and tier 7s, but for the most part is not going to work against equal and higher tier vehicles. The only difference is really is this thing's turret, I'd say, is way better than that of the VK, especially from the side. This thing can pull off some bounces, whereas the VK, the side of the turret, is probably one of the easiest profile tanks to hit in the game. Alright, so I didn't want to push forwards there into the AMX 1375, so instead I'm going to harass this Oni. Now, I am firing some premium rounds here by the looks of it, because I am down to a one-shot, and I wanted to make sure that, well, I go through the tank, because basically a single bounce right now will prove my demise. Alright, so now we're going to be fighting a tiger, and you see I dabbed the 1 key once because I'm planning on firing armor-piercing rounds. I'm thinking, who shall I shoot here, 1375 or shall I shoot the tiger? We shoot the 1375, and unfortunately our gun handling was not quite good enough there to damage the vehicle as well, but we lock the AMX 1375 in place, which allows the Pershing to ram him, and I think the Pershing's going to get the kill, so instead I focus on the Tiger, but I'm still keeping my eyes out on the French light tank because I don't want him to open up on the side of my vehicle. Now, it looks like the Pershing, no, sorry, the artillery strikes the Tiger from the back, and we put another round into the Tiger's tracks here. Look at that, Lorraine 15550 doing some good work at the back there. The Tiger fires off one into the Pershing, and we're going to advance straight through to now pick up 4,500 damage and 1,500 assistance in the first, well, just under 6 minutes of this game. That's not a bad result for a heavy tank. And what I've been doing has been fairly uncomplicated, you know, just get in the faces of your opponents. I feel like this tank needs to be played with kind of reckless abandon or a little bit of aggression. And more often than not, well, I'll have to show you the overall statistics of my grind, and you can see whether it's been working out for me or not. Because, of course, I might just be cherry-picking the one good game that I had in this vehicle. Well, we'll have to see the all-round statistics of the tank in just a second. Alright, so now this VK-101 is in a bit of a pickle. He's surrounded by, what, 5 tanks and a self-propelled gun? But I still don't want to get caught right now because I'm thinking, wow, this is quite a lot of hit points. And when you're grinding through a tank like this, it'd be quite nice to get these experience points. And, wow, easy money right into the side of the turret. A 465 roll. This 420 alpha just feels like it's got so much more, well, I wouldn't say RNG, but obviously when you've got higher alpha damage, then the spread can be bigger. I mean, if you've got a gun with 10 alpha, for example, I guess it can either roll for 13 or 7 if Wargaming do, if they round it. Bit of a bad example, I guess. Obviously, the higher alpha damage guns would make more sense on them. But you get my point, that the spread can be high. This gun can either roll up for that 500 mark or it can roll down for the 300 mark. And it looks like this game we've been rolling for about 500, a little bit more. So it looks like the Pershing gives me a little bit of a bump up the hill, or was it the Eagle? No, it was a Pershing. We finish off the VK, picking up our 5th kill and pushing our damage total up to 5,000. But before we look at the post-game stats for this game, let's go also take a look to see how this vehicle performs when it's not in a favorable matchup. Alright, so this time we're rolling out on Fisherman's Bay and we are not in the best matchup. Thankfully there's no artillery, so we're still going to be able to work some ridge lines rather than just have to cower behind some buildings. But there's a Kranvang, there's a Leopard, there's a Gorilla, and there's a whole bunch of tier 9 tanks that we're going to have to deal with on the enemy team. And for what you saw in the previous game was having the over tier and being able to play aggressively because of that. When you're a top tier tank, you can play much more aggressively than you can do in a game like this. And as many of you will know, when I did a premium tank tech tree showcase on my Twitch channel about a month ago now, I added up, well actually I didn't, but Twitch added up all of the times that I was bottom tier in my tier 8 vehicles. I think I played about 30 or 40 games at tier 8 over that evening, and I was bottom tier 75% of the time. Wargaming's 357 matchmaker is not very friendly for tier 8s. That's not a news flash. We've known about that for pretty much about half a year or a year now. But my point is that what you saw in that previous replay, that's not going to be happening the vast majority of the times, because more often than not, you're going to be in a game like this. And so if the vehicle can't perform in a game like this, then what's the point of the tank? Alright, so immediately you might notice he's kind of going around the corner a little bit at 45 degrees. And sure, I'm actually doing that on purpose, because of that front-mounted turret. I feel like your only chance to avoid damage when you're just trying to trade effectively here is to actually avoid the shell entirely. And because this tank is, well, the front of it doesn't really stick around the corner that much, quite often you can fire off your shot quickly and pull back round the corner before the enemy are unable to return fire. Oh, not talking about that. The Indian Panzer managed to get me, but oh, E50, oh, bad shot there. I thought he was pulling back, he wasn't, and I missed an opportunity to slap a higher tier medium tank. That's something that I will regret. But what I quite often do is just angle my tank around the corner like this, and when you're angling it like this, the armor's actually fairly effective. And then you can hopefully use the good gun dispersion values of this vehicle of 0.1 on the turret, and what is it, 0.18 when moving, to still be able to snapshot and pull back before you take the damage. Oh, there's a Kranvang. I would love to shoot a heavy tank that's 2 tiers higher than me, but for some reason my gun is not working. This 0.38 accuracy is just not doing very well for the first couple of shots at long range in this game. Well, hopefully this one's going to make up. There you go. 460 right into the side of the lurver. And when you've got 420 alpha damage and a fairly good rate of fire like this, you don't have to hit many shots to be able to start to rack it up that game. Don't even have to look at that one. It felt so cool. Well, so confident. I guess confidence is cool in a way. As long as you're not overconfident, you come off brash, then that we were going to be able to smash that lever that I wanted to look across to see if the E50 or the T32 or the T49 was going to be shootable. Alright, so Kranvang once again, now he's going to try and make another push around the corner. I decide to blind fire there to maybe try and slap the Kranvang. We're going to have to take a look in the post-game stats to see if I hit that one, or even if he appears right now on full health, which he does, which means that we did not hit him. But finally, one round goes in. So you can see this vehicle is definitely not the best sniper, but it's not the worst. I feel like these large caliber guns do very well against the side of vehicles. You know, with the 218 millimeters of standard pen that this tank has is not fantastic, but even in a matchup like this, you still feel like I can do okay. Now, I am firing a lot of rounds blind here. Am I going to fire a few more? Wow, I really am putting out these rounds willy-nilly right now. They're not free. These are 1,000 credits a shot. And one thing that worries me right now is that these 1,000 credits a shot are going to start to become 4,000 credits a shot, as I'm going to have to dab the 2 key in a second. So I actually bounced off the upper plate of the T32 there. He was using his gun depression, and the T32's armor is way better than that of the T29. It's definitely one of the advantages of that tank. Well, it has to be, because the T32... Oh, come on, T32, take it! Just refuses to die right now, because the gun is exactly the same on the T29. But I'm actually the one who was spotting him there, and so that allows the 257 to finish him off, and we're packing, once again, 1,200 spotting here. So I bounced off the lower plate of the 257, firing down on that lower plate from above wasn't really going to work. So I say 257, I meant 705, sorry about that. But now I'm going to be dabbing the 2 key, so hopefully we can manage to find the heavy tank again. Oh, come on, what is going on with this gun? All right, maybe I shouldn't have picked this replay. Well, at least this is showing you that this isn't the sniper of destiny, right? And this kind of stuff even happens to the best of us. I feel like I'm aiming all of my shots properly. They're just not quite going where I want them to. We're not getting very lucky. We're not getting much momentum. But, you know, when you're in a matchup like this, you do have to play that long-range game. And our impact hasn't been bad. I'm quite happy with 2,100 damage at this point of the game. And I'm going to push forwards to hopefully manage to now extend our view range out. Now, I got spotted as I crossed there. I'm not sure if it's the E50. Not sure if it was maybe somebody down towards the east who spotted me. Doesn't really matter. I'm going to hang here for a little bit until I know that I'm no longer spotted. And then I'm going to try and extend some view range out for my team a little bit more. I'm actually going to come around the corner a little bit here to see if we can find a shot on the 705. E50 immediately spotted. I'm going to turn the gun around and I'm going to snap right into the back of the vehicle. And that's what I was talking about with the gun handling on this tank. It definitely doesn't feel terrible. This 2.7 seconds aim time with good dispersion values just allows me to snapshot. And this is the real big difference on this tank, is that how much better this gun handling is, even if the aim time looks larger than the previous vehicle, that 45 TP. The 45 TP made me absolutely mad. It drove me up the wall with the gun handling on the tank and the aim time, and I just felt like I was never able to clutch shot anything. On this vehicle, even though the aim time was worse because of those dispersion values, it's just absolutely bizarre to me that Wargaming hide them from you, ended up being better. So everybody would probably look at this tank and look at the previous vehicle and think that the 45 TP is going to be the one that can clutch shot, right? No, actually the 53 TP is the one that can clutch shot. Talking about clutch shotting, we're going to have one here into the top of the C50 turret. Seems to be locking me down, turning his attention towards the 257. He's turned his turret towards the 257, so I'm going to come around the corner and put one right into the top of the E50, and that is a very good roll. I rolled 69 higher than the alpha damage of my tank. That was plus 15%. Even I wasn't expecting to be able to finish off that E50 in a single shot, and that's a real big impact in the game, because now look, I've got this whole area in the center of the map where I can play around with, and that's what I was trying to go for. Now up to 5,000 combined damage in the first 7.5 minutes of this game. Let's see what we can do with the remaining half of this battle. And it's still neck and neck. Look at that, 7 kills apiece. Although I feel like because we've got the center, we've got the control now. We've got all the flanking fire towards the east and the west. We should be able to deal with them. I'm going to pull back here. I'm going to drive straight away because I'm very unconfident about getting spotted in the middle of the map, and I want to be careful right now. And I did get spotted as well. If I'd driven this way, would have probably been a little bit of a disaster. It would have been an opportunity for anyone sitting at the back here to be able to get shots into us. All right. So now, we're going to make our way over towards the west. I'm going to try and assist this flank in breaking through, because we've got 2 tier 9 medium tanks in the middle who are providing more than enough of the assistance. And when I start to get to this period of the game with 6 minutes left, I'm not really confident in my team that they are going to be the ones who push through. Talking about not being confident, goodness gracious, the charioteer managed to spot me, and then the leopard hits me from the back of the map exactly where I thought he would be. However, now that I know where the leopard is, and now that I know that the Indian Panzer is getting caught out in the open, and that the Griller is on very low health, I'm realizing this game is not nearly as close as I thought it was, and it's time to turn the heat up on the enemy team, be aggressive with our remaining 582 hit points, and hopefully manage to soak up some more experience. And this is the stage of the game where you are able to, I guess, push your marks of excellence if you're interested in that kind of thing, or alternatively for me, it's just to make a lot of experience at the end of the game. This is where you need to see, okay, the battle is won, my team are about to overwhelm the enemy. Don't be caught napping. Don't be caught at the back in the bush in a slow heavy tank able to push forwards to be able to get some more damage and some more spots. We're going to hit this leopard at long range. This is a very tricky target. Yeah, right into the side. Finally, my accuracy starts to come good. Hit that tier 9 German medium tank who now has made it into the dip, so I'm no longer going to be able to spot him. And I'm looking for this AMX-65 instead. Alright, AMX-65, spotted at the back, still on full hit points. But 1,450, that suggests to me that the AMX-65 has actually got a stock turret. And yeah, there you go, stock turret. But actually, the stock turret on that tank is better than the upgraded turret in this scenario. Oh dear, this is the wiggle that I was talking to you about. Do you see how it worked out perfectly? It was aiming too much at the side of my vehicle there. And so my tracks and my side armor able to absorb the punishment, which allows me to get one more shot in and survive this battle with, wow, 7k combined. That is great for a tier 8 heavy tank in a bottom tier matchup. So the first round was an ace tanker for the 53 TP with a high caliber medal, and this was a great ace. 1,600 base experience points for 5,188 damage and 1,550 upon detecting. We fired a few premium rounds here. Didn't matter, we still made a profit even after resupplying a premium consumable in the form of that bread with Smarlets. And I showed you that the gun handling on this vehicle at short to mid-range is more than enough. We hit every shot and we penetrated 14 out of 15. An all-round solid performance for the 53 TP. Next up on Fisherman's Bay in the worst possible matchup, this time a first class for 1,428. That would be an ace in pretty much 99% of the tanks in the game, but not this one because it's new and it's still hard to get an ace in those top tier Polish heavies, as usually only the most dedicated players have got them and they're playing them a lot. Now I did actually lose some credits in this game as I resupplied that bread with Smarlets and I fired a few premium rounds as my accuracy was not great. 16 out of 23, although we did blind fire a lot, and we hit 12 out of them, but a lot of this damage we dealt was at long range. But still, we did the most damage in this game in the worst possible matchup, and 50% more than what anybody on my team was able to achieve, and a decent amount of spotting too. So, the 53 TP in these two games, absolutely phenomenal. So were these two games that I showed you just completely lucky? Well, they were definitely the better games that I had in the vehicle, but as the statistics show, over the 37 games that I played in it, I did very well. 78% win solo, nearly 1,300 average experience gained in the tank, just shy of 2,400 damage with 1,000 spotting. This was a great tier 8 heavy tank. But please do take into account that the statistics that you saw were with me free experiencing the top gun on this tank. Wargaming have put on this absolutely bizarre gun. It's a gun that's only on the 53 TP and it's completely and utterly terrible. It's as if you wanted to take an IS gun, put it on this vehicle just for the sake of it to force people to have to spend more experience on the tank. This 122mm is completely pointless. It costs 22,500 experience and it's worse than the bloody stock gun on this tank. Wargaming are clearly just wanting you to either suffer your way through getting towards that top gun, or alternatively convert some gold, or shall I say convert free experience with gold and pay to be able to play this tank as you should be able to right from the get-go. However, one word of advice, I did play this tank without the top engine, and quite happily. This expensive engine at 26,000 should be one of the last things you unlock on the tank, and I did it with the top gun, and the vehicle didn't feel very sluggish at all. And so, the 53 TP. All in all, this is a very solid tier 8 heavy, which is an absolute pleasure to play, and it's definitely one of the highlights of the tech tree for me personally. The only thing I think it really suffers from is the fact that it's just not very special. It's a generic tier 8 heavy tank, but just because it's well-rounded doesn't mean that it's going to still have to be terrible. So that's it for today, ladies and gents. I hope you enjoyed this video, or maybe it was just useful to you. If it was, consider giving the video a thumbs up, but if you hated it, make sure you give it a thumbs down, and stay tuned to the channel as I will be reviewing its bigger brother, the 50 TP, in the upcoming weeks. And as always, thank you so much for watching. You've been epic, and hopefully I'll see you soon.